Hello, my name is Susan Marcus. I'm a professor here at Walden University. I'm also a yoga practitioner and a yoga teacher. I've been studying yoga since 1988 and teaching since 2001. And I'm so happy to be here today to share with you a restorative yoga practice, something that you can do as a nice break between moments when you're working at your desk. We'll take a poll first just to find out your own experience of whether or not you've tried yoga before. Maybe this is your first time. And if this is your first time, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Or maybe you've tried yoga just a few times, but you'd like to learn more, and this is a perfect place for you here. Or maybe you have a regular practice, and this will be something new for you to try and to incorporate into your regular practice. Now for me, as I mentioned, I've been practicing yoga since 1988. And what we mean by a practice is just like anything else, like practicing the piano or practicing running or an art or any kind of skill. It's something that you do every day. And yoga is the kind of activity that you can do every day. Now, the focus on today's conversation, today's presentation, is on restorative yoga, which is a particular kind of sequence. And you'll see in this slide here that I've got 5 or 6 words highlighted in purple, and I'll be talking about those more in depth. But what restorative yoga is a sequence of 5 or 6 asanas. Now, the word asana is a Sanskrit word that means pose. That's how it's generally used. Using props like the chair you see behind me that allow you to rest and relax. So the key to restorative yoga is being able to get enough support so that you can rest and relax and begin, particularly if you have a busy day, to reestablish that wonderful connection between the body and the mind. Now, I don't know how many of you have had this experience, but it has happened to me where I'll be so busy thinking about something that I'll stub my toe on a chair, or I'll run into a cabinet with my elbow. And I realize, wait a second, my mind was racing ahead and I had no idea where my body was in space. So in a typical day, most times we are not connected, our minds to our bodies. And a simple restorative practice gives you the space to reestablish that connection between your mind and your body so that you have a more mindful day. Now, the other thing, a restorative practice, each pose is held for 5 minutes or more. We're not going to do that today. We'll just give you a sample. But the idea in a restorative practice is with 5 minutes, the body can settle down and the mind can quiet and give you the benefit of that relaxation and restoration. In a restorative practice, we include a variety of poses, light twists where you're twisting from the waist, and typically one part of the body stays stable and the other part of the body turns, depending on the pose. Sometimes it's the upper body that stays stable and the lower body turns. And in the pose that we'll practice today, the lower body stays stable and the upper body turns. So that's what we mean by a twist. A forward extension is bending forward. And actually, when you're bending forward, you're actually stretching the back of your body. We also do gentle back extensions where you're lifting and turning backwards and actually extending the front of the body. And this is a particular stretch that we don't do most times in our everyday lives. So it's good to incorporate a gentle back extension as well. Now, it's interesting to note that most restorative practices are based on the teachings of BKS Iyengar. Now, as I said, I've been a yoga practitioner for a long time. My teacher and the practice that I follow is called Iyengar Yoga. I recognize that there are many, many, many different kinds of yoga. I am so grateful that so many people are practicing yoga these days. So regardless of what lineage or what practice, if you're doing it at the gym or in a studio or watching a video or out on the beach, that it's really a wonderful thing to do and that it has such broad appeal. This practice that I've developed for this video is a restorative practice based on the teachings of BKS Iyengar. So BKS Iyengar comes from a lineage of teachers, all who have had a profound effect on modern yoga. His guru was Krishnamacharya, who's considered the father of modern yoga. Now, if you think about it, way back in the day, really even up until the 1900s, there were no such things as yoga classes. So rather than having a class, you would have a guru, a couple of elite upper class students, maybe the sons or daughters of the ruler of a kingdom or a locale, and maybe a relative or two. But the classes were very small, and the teacher was called the guru. It's really only been since the 50s where you've actually had a yoga class with a teacher. And so BKS Iyengar was one of three of this profound lineage of teachers coming from Krishnamacharya. The other included Pattabhi Jois, who founded Ashtanga Yoga, and Desikachar, who founded the Vini Yoga. And these three branches of yoga have spawned many different kinds of teachings and practices. So for some of these lineages, they all come from the same root. Now, the interesting thing about Iyengar Yoga is he developed this methodology after years of study and practice in order to deal with his own physical conditions. As a child, he was very sickly, and he was, I think, the last of 13 children, and sent off to his uncle, the guru, in order to see if the guru could help him. And through his practice of yoga, he healed himself, or the yoga helped him heal himself from a lot of terrible conditions. And he learned a couple of things. One is that not only is yoga a mind-body practice, but it's also a very healing practice. And the other thing he came to understand is that he could share and teach this practice with a broad array of people, moving from the select small group to everyone, what we call the householders. Everyone with an ordinary life can practice yoga. And the other thing to note is that this practice, the Iyengar practice, is rooted in the Indian philosophy of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali's. The Yoga Sutras, in short, is 196 very short statements divided into 4 chapters describing what yoga is, how to practice, the benefits and risks, and the last chapter is devoted to what's called the ultimate freedom, where the body, mind, and spirit are united. In the next slide, we'll show you a brief video of BKS Iyengar talking about some of these concepts.
That's all. That is as simple as it is.
So yoga.
Science is progressing. Art is progressing. So yoga is being an art, as science, it has to progress. Otherwise it's stagnation again. And somebody have to come to life to revolutionize again.
What is the goal of yoga?
Goal. Want to be free from the afflictions of the body and mind. So when the afflictions are gone, one is in the heaven. So what more do you want to ask for that? So to be free, so that all other actions can be done without inflicting pains on others or on oneself. And that is the aim of yoga.
The typical idea of yoga is that, it's this thing from India, but what we see, is it not?
No, it's not from India. It was originated, that's all. But it concerns the human being. That's why the very word Patanjali has used, he has used the word, it is Sarvabhauma, means universal culture. He never uses a Hindu culture. He has used the word universal culture. That's the beauty of his word. So it stands for the humanity. If it was not possible, yoga would have died long ago, my friend. It's still surviving. Why? That itself is enough for proof that it is an immortal subject, will remain immortal forever.
So I hope you enjoyed that short video that was done in 2008. BKS Iyengar passed away in 2014. So he was in his late 80s when he did that video. And you can see how some of the concepts that I've talked about are consistent with some of the things that he spoke about as well. That yoga is really, we come to think of it as a physical practice, how to feel better, how to take care of yourself. But really it's a universal practice that helps an individual reconnect with their mind, with their body, and cultivate a quality of nonviolence towards oneself and towards others. So going back to some of those words that we highlighted in the very beginning of the presentation. The first, what is an asana? The word asana is a Sanskrit word. It literally means seat, although it's commonly translated into the word pose or posture. And it generally means any position or movement that done deliberately to increase awareness, strength, and mobility to the physical body. So asana is the physical practice. And it rests within 8 components of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. So again, this is one way, one perspective on the conceptualization of yoga. In this perspective, yoga is actually conceptualized as having 8 components or limbs. The first 2 are really how you relate to the external world. The yamas are how you are with others, how you conduct yourself with others and in the presence of others. For example, the first yama is the principle of ahimsa, which means nonviolence. So to practice yoga in its fullest form, means you practice nonviolence towards yourself and all others. So you don't even have to do the poses in order to practice yoga. The second limb or the second component of yoga is niyama. Those are the practices one does to cultivate purity, cleanliness, and preparation for the physical postures. So the first niyama is saucha, which translates to cleanliness, but it means more broadly speaking, how to take care of your physical body, keeping it clean and healthy. The third limb is asana, which are the physical practices. And we'll get to those, more of those in just a moment. The fourth limb is pranayama, the breathing. And you'll notice then that we move from the external and we started to move with the direction of the breath towards the internal experience. So when we move from asana, concentrating on the physical body, your fingers, your toes, your limbs, your trunk, we bring our awareness to the focus of the breath, the inhalations and exhalations, and you'll observe as you focus on your breath that you're starting to quiet your mind and move from the external to the internal. The fifth limb of yoga is pratyahara, which means drawing the senses inward as well. So we sometimes describe it as turning the eyes inward, turning the ears inward, turning the conversation inward and quieting it so that you can gain access to the more inner experience of your being. The last 3 limbs, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, comprise the innermost movement in the practice of yoga. Focused attention, meditation, and total absorption. Asana practice is situated as the third limb, in part because in its most traditional form, asana gets the body ready to sit comfortably for the practice of meditation and beyond. So as described in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the phrase Sthira Sukha Asanam, which the Sanskrit to English translation is, a pose should be firm, comfortable, and happy. All right, so when we put a series of asanas together, a series of poses together, we call it a sequence. And a sequence is a group of poses with a particular intention. So we'll be going through a restorative sequence a little later on in the presentation. But I also wanted to talk about some other kinds of sequences that you might experience in a class or that you might do in a home practice. For example, you can do a sequence that focuses on balancing. Balance is a really important aspect of standing, sitting, and moving. And particularly as we get older and our feet and ankles and knees get stiff, balancing can become quite a problem. In fact, there's an almost 20% mortality rate in older people who have a hip fracture, not because of the hip fracture itself, but because of their osteoporosis and inflexibility of their joints and their inability to recover from that kind of surgery and that kind of trauma. So being able to keep your balance and catch yourself when you're off balance is a really important skill or quality to keep up with as you get older. And in yoga balancing poses, we balance on our feet, we balance on our hands, we balance on different parts of the body in order to bring mobility and stability to the joints and strength to the muscles. There are also strength building poses. And these are poses that particularly focus on the limbs of the arms, the legs, and the muscles of the trunk. So the big muscles like the biceps and triceps in your arms, the quadriceps and hamstrings of the thighs, the calf muscles, and all of the abdominal muscles as well. And so we'll do standing poses for strength building, arm balancing for strength building, and abdominal poses to build up the abdominal muscles in order to support the spine. And all of those strength building poses teach the muscles how to be flexible and strong, move towards the bone as opposed to away from the bone, and support the bone and stabilize the joints. There are also therapeutic sequences that focus on specific conditions so that the yoga itself does not necessarily have to be done by someone who knows yoga, but rather someone who has a condition like neck and shoulder issues, lower back issues, knee issues, ankle and foot issues, where the focus is on restoring mobility, building strength, and relieving pain. The last type of sequence that one might practice is a sequence where you're striving towards a complex or challenging pose. So that, let's say if you're doing a very difficult back bend, you don't just jump right into that back bend. First, you open up and stretch your neck and shoulders, you open up your upper back, you stretch the front of the body, work the thighs, and then gradually, from pose to pose to pose, move into a more complex pose. So in the next few slides, I'll show you some pictures of some poses that represent each of these different kinds of sequences. This obviously is a balancing pose. So learning to stand on your head is a part of this method because in addition to building balance and also strength, you also build an ability to balance your mind with your body and a mental clarity that translates into your day-to-day life, that when things go upside down, you can still maintain a stable and calm disposition. This is an example of a strength-building pose. So you can see I'm balancing on my arms and holding my entire body up with the strength of my arms. I'm also using my abdominal muscles, drawing them back in order to lift the back body and the trunk away from the floor. This is an example of a therapeutic pose. My friend Dean here, who's given me permission to use this slide, suffers from neck and shoulder issues. And you can see that there's a rolled blanket supporting his neck and his head. And I'm holding the back of his skull right at the base of the skull to lengthen the base of the skull towards the crown of the head and give his neck some relief and some space. And this pose, this is a very complex pose. And you can see I'm using a wood support in order to reach up and over in a very strong back bend in order to grab my feet and extend the thighs towards the knees. If you look really closely, the other interesting thing about this is that strapped to my calves are two metal bars, one on each side, that are close to the knee joint. And so those knee bars, they're called knee rods, are used therapeutically to help the knees and ankles stabilize. So it helps teach the muscles to move to the bone. So here I'm doing a complex pose and also doing some therapy work on my knees. Okay, so in this video, we're going to be participating in a restorative chair sequence. Now I've designed this sequence so that you can, while you're watching this video, actually slide yourself back in your chair away from your desk and do the practice with me. And you'll have this record of the list of poses and the visual how to do them. So this is something that you can do every day. And in this process, we'll focus on not just the shape of the pose, but encouraging you, your mind, to pay attention to where your body is in space, to create that body and mind connection and build some inherent calmness and stability. That's a really nice break from the rest of your workday. So I'm going to stand up and come to the chair. And you can see that we call this a yoga chair. It has no back, but you don't need a special chair. Even the chair that you use at work is fine, as long as if it has wheels, you lock down the wheels so you're not rolling around. So the first thing to pay attention to when we begin the practice is how you're sitting. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see. Of course, most of the time, we're sitting like this or like this, typing on a computer. But when you come to do your restorative practice, take a few moments to experience and look, and even use a mirror to look at the shape of the pose. I'm going to adjust this here so you can see a little better. So take a few moments, and you can even use the mirror. I'm going to do this again because I want you to see everything. Let's see. Because I want you to be able to, all right. So take a few minutes to, if you can even use a mirror, to look at the shape of your pose. You can see that my legs are in a right angle. If you're tall and your chair is too low, your knees may be higher than your hips. So in that case, you want to put a blanket or a pillow under your bottom so your thighs are parallel to the floor. If you're little, when you sit, your feet may be dangling. So in that case, take a blanket or a book and put it under your feet, again, so that your thighs are parallel to the floor. So once you make that adjustment, we'll be able to do our first pose. It's called simply sitting tall. So sit in your chair slightly away from the back. Place your feet about 6 inches apart. Look down to see that the inner sides of your feet are parallel to each other, as opposed to turned out. And when you parallel your feet, also parallel your knees, so that your feet, your knees, and your hips are in one line. Now, I also tell my students when I'm teaching about this metaphor of the salad in the bowl. If you imagine that the rim of your rib cage is the top of the bowl, Your spine is the bottom of the bowl, and the top of your pelvis is the other side of the bowl, if you get that image. And your abdominal organs, the fascia, the muscles, even the skin, that's all the salad. So whenever you're sitting or standing, the salad always goes in the bowl. So when you sit up nice and tall, press your feet down, keep your knees even, move the salad into the bowl, hold on to the sides of the chair or the seat of the chair so that you can take your shoulders back and your abdomen back as well. Maintain a calm and thoughtful disposition, and we'll be here for another 30 seconds. If you're doing this with me, we'll be here for about 45 seconds. Become aware of your feet evenly pressing into the floor. Your knee is relaxed. You can feel your bottom on the seat. Lift the sides of your chest. Your shoulders go back, and carefully balance your head on top of your neck. All the while breathing normally. And then to come out of the pose, just let go. And see what happens to your body when it goes back to what your normal way of sitting is. Everything sort of collapses. So even in this mild pose, you can feel the difference of when the muscles activate towards the bones to help lift the spine. We'll do the same thing again, but this time bring the arms over the head. So you'll stand on your feet, even though you're sitting, so your feet are firm. Your knees are parallel with your feet. Your knees are parallel with your hips. You use the chair to take your shoulders back and keep the salad in the bowl. And then slow and steady, raise your arms. If you have shoulder tightness, have your hands wider than your shoulders. Tighten your elbows so that your arms are firm. And slow and steady, raise your arms up. Again, press into your feet, sit firmly on the chair, and if you can, turn your biceps to the back of the room and triceps forward. And if you can hold it for another 30 seconds, that's wonderful. If your arms get tired, bring your arms down, rest, and then try it again. The nice thing about yoga is with a little practice, your muscles do become stronger and you're able to hold the pose for long. Keep breathing normally as your arms are up, and then bring your arms down. Well done, everyone. Okay, our next pose is a gentle twist. I'm twisting to my left, you're going to twist to your right, so we'll be going in the same direction. So again, keeping that stable base, and remember in an earlier slide I described that twists involve turning from the waist, where one part of the body is stable and the other part of the body turns. In this case, from here down will be stable, and from here up will turn. So stand firmly on your feet, keep your knees even, and then reach behind you with your right hand and hold on to the chair leg, or if you can, the back of the seat. Take the right shoulder and move it to the wall or the spot behind you. Do you see how that's starting to turn my chest? Then take your left hand on your right outer thigh. Bend your left elbow and pull it away from you and roll the right shoulder back. As you turn your chest to the right, look over your left shoulder. But if that's too much fatigue on your neck, then just look in the same direction as your chest. We'll hold it for another 30 seconds. Again, you can look over your shoulder. Keep moving the elbows apart. And glance down and make sure that your knees are even. And then release. And now we'll go to the other side. So now we're turning to your left. So bring your left hand behind you. Hold on to the chair leg. Or if you can reach to the back of the chair, that's great. And roll the left shoulder back. And you'll already feel the body start to turn. Take your right hand to your left thigh and pull the right elbow forward as you pull your left elbow back. Roll the left shoulder back, lean slightly forward, and remember, as you exhale, bring the salad into the bowl. As you inhale, lift the sides of your chest. If your neck gets tired, just turn your head in the direction of your chest. But then see if you can turn your head one way and turn your chest the other way. Breathe normally. And then release. Very nice. Now we'll try a great pose. It's a supported forward bend that's perfect to do at your desk. I'm going to pretend this is my desk. This is a yoga prop called the Halasana box. And we use it in a lot of poses, but here I'm going to use it for supported forward bend. Now you can just use your desk. So you sit in a comfortable seated pose. Remember to adjust your feet. And then use the sides of the chair to roll the shoulders back and bring the salad into the bowl. And then when you exhale, keep the salad in the bowl. Don't let your belly drop on your thighs. Just draw the abdomen back gently. And then place your forearms on your desk. And then your head on your forearms. You can look down at your feet and make sure that they're steady, that they don't roll out or roll in. You can close your eyes. Breathe normally. And then to come up, use your hands on your desk to lift yourself up. Now we're going to try this one more time for just about 20 seconds. But this time, when we do the pose, once you come into the pose, I'd like you to focus on one thing. It may be the feeling of your forehead resting on your forearms. It could be the sound of your breath. It could be the feeling of your feet on the floor. So we'll do that. Just see if for the next 20 seconds, once you come into the pose, if you can bring your mind to focus on one thing. So here we go. Stand firmly on your feet. Sit firmly in the chair. Shoulders back. Salad in the bowl. And then exhale and come forward. Once you come into the pose, with your eyes closed, find something to concentrate on. The press of the feet, the breath, your forehead on your forearms, and just see if you can keep your mind there for the next 15 seconds. And then to come out of the pose, open your eyes, use your hands to come up. Now, I don't know about you, but even that simple practice of seeing if you can keep your mind steady in one place can be challenging, but that's another skill to develop in order to connect the body with the mind and keep the mind in the present. It's also a nice way to take a break from your multitasking, from the many things that you do during the day. Our second to last pose is supported back bend. And for here, we'll use the chair. So stand in front of your chair, step a little bit away from the chair, and hold the sides of the chair. Keep your kneecaps tight, and just lean forward until your hips rest on the chair. If you can, push your thighs back and bring your tailbone into your body. So your bottom is not going away from the chair. You're moving your bottom towards the chair. And place your hands where they're comfortable. And as your thighs move back, roll the shoulders back and lift the chest. You may feel as you breathe in and out the effort in your arms, that's a correct feeling. You may feel the stretch in the front of your thighs, also a correct feeling. But if you're feeling anything in your lower back, immediately come out of the pose. And then come up. And then for our last pose, a quiet, restful, seated pose. Again, you can do this right at your desk. Again, bring your feet so that they're parallel to each other with about 6 inches between. Line up your feet, your knees, your hips. Hold on to the sides of the chair to roll your shoulders back. Exhale to bring the salad into the bowl. Turn your palms up. Just rest them on your lap and close your eyes. Breathe normally and keep that sense of openness in your chest and the feeling of firmness on your feet and presence of your body sitting in the chair and your trunk lifting nice and tall and your mind quiet. Again, you can focus on your breath or a particular sensation and see if you can keep your mind steady there as you sit. And then slowly open your eyes and you're finished with your practice. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this practice beneficial. I hope you at least are able to look at the video again and remember and maybe practice some of the poses. So have a great rest of your afternoon, rest of your day. Thank you.